Horrifying haunted houses that take it too far by Mr. Nightmare. What's good? How you day going? Morning, evening, night. Whenever you're watching this video, I ain't gonna talk your ears off. We're not gonna do a long intro. I'm ready to get right to this one. The reason why I'm ready to jump into this one because I'm actually getting ready to go to a haunted house myself, and I'm legit hoping that mug is like dumb scary because it's been about a good, I spelled 3, maybe 4, maybe a little longer, a year since I actually been to one. And you always hear these ones that are like advertised. Real quick, we're gonna talk a little bit of ish. My bad. The ones that are advertised was like, yo, this is the scariest ish ever. If you make it through this one, we'll give you all your money back, double, triple, XYZ, all that ish, whatever, right? The last time I've been to one of those, I was like, no, BS, it was trash. But either way it go, though, yo. By the way, check out the video. Want to check out the original video? Link will be in the description below, but let's go.
Before getting into the topic of today's video, I want to thank Rocket Money for sponsoring this video. With rent, gas, and groceries becoming more and more expensive, managing your finances is more important than ever. Premium. Head to rocketmoney.com/Mr. Nightmare or click the link in the description.
I'm gonna leave links in my description as well.
The first haunted house on this list is Dead of Night. Dead of Night was an attraction run by the Chamber of Horrors on Long Island, New York that closed in 2015. It was regarded as one of New York's most extreme haunted houses, and it had one of the most horrifying haunt openings many had ever seen. Everyone waited in lines, listening to a calming pre-recorded message saying, "We are here for your protection.
Everything will be okay. You are safe. We are here to protect you and care for you. We love you. Nothing is real. All is well."
Which was interrupted at intervals by an air raid siren and men in gas masks and suits who each grabbed an unsuspecting patron and dragged them into the attraction. However, you'd be lucky if
I
you
always
were
thought they
dragged
couldn't touch you, though. At least that was a rule I always heard. Maybe I just went to a lot of PC haunted houses. I don't know what. Oh shoot, I lost my mouse. Hold on.
and dragged them into the attraction. However, you'd be lucky if you were dragged in. Some people were zipped into body bags and some were thrown over actors' shoulders and carried in. The attraction opened with this very strong abduction scenario. Then the focus shifted to humiliation, which included the smearing of strange substances on patrons' faces and even hitting people in the face with large and painfully heavy objects. Dead of Night has been discontinued from the Chamber of Horrors, but people to this day still hope to see it return. In Chicago, Illinois, there's a haunted house called Miasma.
I missed the haunted part. I really fucking did. What the fuck? Alright, but let's see what we got.
In Chicago, Illinois, there's a haunted house called Miasma, which is just as extreme, if not more extreme, than Dead of Night. Miasma is restricted to those 18 and older, and patrons may only enter alone. Patrons will be restrained, blindfolded, smeared with blood, endure heavy physical contact, and more. It's invite only, however, and patrons who receive an invite commonly describe the instructions in the email to be very vague but clear, and that was to not share the location of where they're going with anyone, to show up alone, and do not show up late. If the instructions were ever disregarded, the experience would end. All guests are asked to refrain from sharing details of the experience, making it harder to get many details about what goes on inside. But some patrons have described their experiences to involve physical pain, often leaving with claw marks on their skin, psychological torture, emotional distress.
I would think though, if that's the way you get invited to this mug, invite only, including all the other rules, whatever, I would probably go there expecting some bullshit to happen to me. Like I probably would at that point.
Often leaving with claw marks on their skin, psychological torture, emotional distress, and a lot of violence. Miasma can be very physically demanding, forcing patrons to sometimes crawl through tight spaces. One patron said she at one point forgot she was in a haunted house and tapped out when it started to feel like she was genuinely in a life or death situation. The location isn't even...
I'm gonna scare your ass, alright. You thought you was scared of ghosts. Wait till I up this 30 on you. Oh, shit. Dog, you about to shoot me? What the fuck? Nigga crossing the sewer. Yeah, nigga, leave a Yelp review. Make sure you leave 5 stars too, boy. We scary as hell up here, ain't it? Stop playing me, boy. I ain't seen not a zombie, not a witch yet. Boy, what Michael Myers?
Spaces. One patron said she at one point forgot she was in a haunted house and tapped out when it started to feel like she was genuinely in a life or death situation. The location isn't even revealed to guests until 24 hours prior, and allegedly the location always changes.
Yeah, stop playing with me. We got some. I'm letting his ass play real quick. Boy, stop playing with me. Let me stop playing. But the funniest issue though, I was thinking I didn't want to say nothing though, so I was like, no, I'll be mature, watch the video. But on the first haunted house, shit ain't haunted. On the first haunted house, I was like, it would be funny though if I was like, if you just like bring your friends, but you don't tell them, you just tell them you go to a haunted house, and the nigga just come out and put the bag over doggy head. What the? This sound like
4 hours prior,
video.
and allegedly the location always changes.
House, my ass.
Scarehouse the Basement. Underneath the regular, tamer attraction known as Scarehouse in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, used to lie what was known as the basement at Scarehouse, which was a much more intense, immersive, and interactive experience than that of the one upstairs. And it was held inside a nearly 100-year-old historic and apparently actually haunted building. It's been closed since COVID, but it's rumored to be returning soon. You may enter in pairs or alone, though odds are not many people will be entering this place alone. The actors in this haunted house are incredibly convincing, and there's a lot of improvisation and dialogue as you make your way through each scene of what's basically your own personal real-life horror movie. It's not possible to make it from start to end without coming into...
Yo, this shit creepy. Let me go back a little bit. What is it called when you can actually do that with your bones? Me and my girl was just talking about it, like legit people who can do this. I can't think of it. Let me know in the comment section. But people who can actually, like, who are flexible like that.
Will be entering this place alone. The actors in this haunted house are incredibly convincing, and there's a lot of improvisation and dialogue as you make your way through each scene of what's basically your own personal real-life horror movie. It's not possible to make it from start to end without coming into contact and having to deal with the actors stopping you and messing around with you. There's extreme physical contact, sexual undertones, real electric shock, religious themes, very tight spaces, and much more. Like most attractions I'll talk about in this video, you must sign a waiver before entering. The basement can get so disturbing that the attraction appropriately has a safe word to yell out if a patron happens to feel violated or too uncomfortable.
I done threw my lighter. I found my lighter, but my bad. I do not know why the N word is my go-to word when I get scared. My bad. When I say I'm scared to live shit out of me.
Violated or too uncomfortable.
But I know it's coming.
The Cult was an attraction located in North Conway, New Hampshire. The Cult had been called the ultimate in terror, only for die-hard fans of true horror, for those who want the experience of real-life terror to test your fears. It was an hour-long attraction and patrons had to walk through alone. Absolutely no groups allowed. Going through it, you would encounter violent situations, and the actors would lay hands on you many times. As the nervous patrons meet a man before entering the attraction who asks if they have any problems with darkness, heights, claustrophobia, eels, rats, bugs, needles, or being fully submerged in water.
All that.
Most of the patrons were already nervous of what they were getting themselves into. Patrons were given a red card on a lanyard. If one decided the experience was too much, they would give up their safety pass and it would be over. During the experience, patrons would be asked to step into a chairlift that led to a dirt path, which would then lead to a cabin where they would meet a man who would shove them into a booth, yell at them, spray them with unknown liquids, throw a bag over their heads, and then carry them outside, where the simulated torture continued.
What's that liquid?
As patrons continued on, it only got worse. Throughout the attraction, patrons would encounter live animals, for example, being forced to have snakes or cockroaches crawl on them, forced edibles, for example, being forced to drink what the actors would claim as animal urine, extreme violence, and much more. The Cult has been closed since 2013. The Blackout Haunted House was an attraction that had two locations.
We got ads coming up. I'm going to ask real quick. But just while they're playing, though, the whole idea of it, like, all right, we're going to test your whole terror level since you think you like terror idea. I love that. It was like, yo, you can live damn near your favorite horror movie. We're going to give you that experience. But damn, all these hoes are physical, though. That's the only part that's getting me, whatever. But regardless, though, I like that idea. Once it kicks to the whole sounds like BDSM to me, whatever stages is, at that point, it's like, all right, bro, It's just somebody trying to get their rocks off at this point, dog. This shit ain't got nothing to do. You look doggy humping me and shit, dog. Nigga, you ain't even trying to scare me, boy. Boo. My bad, the ad's over. Let's get back
Blackout
to the
Haunted House
Let's get back to the blackout.
would claim as animal urine, extreme violence, and much more. The
no
cult has been
urine.
closed since 2013. The Blackout Haunted House was an attraction that had two locations, one in New York and one in California. It featured extreme violence, full frontal nudity, forced edibles, submersion in water, physical contact, and patrons had to enter alone. Patrons were abducted in vans, waterboarded, and even rolled naked in a sheet of plastic and forced to walk barefoot down a hallway. Said hallway would lead to a scene with a horrifically tall figure and frail woman. And if I described the scene, this video would probably get age restricted. As a patron would pass, the tall man would stand up, would probably get age restricted. As a patron would pass, the tall man would stand up, exposing his body, and then threaten to make physical contact with the patron. Blackout overall relied on darkness, loud noises, violence, and sexual situations to terrify its customers. Until around 2015, it had been a solo-only experience, but starting in, I believe, 2016 or 2017, patrons were allowed to enter in groups. It seems Blackout hasn't been open for the past 2 seasons. Freakling Brothers Victim Experience 3 is a Las Vegas attraction featuring extended submersion in water, electric shock, and extreme physical contact. The Victim Experience is extremely intense, and you must go through alone. One patron said he watched a camouflaged attacker appear out of nowhere, grab his colleague by the foot, then knock her down and drag her down a long hallway as she screamed. Damn. He was left alone in the darkness until the attacker came back for him and threw him over his shoulder. Patrons will experience electric shock at some point, as well as the feeling of near drowning as they're submerged underwater for extended periods of time. As the title of the attraction suggests, once you enter, you are a victim. You will experience pain and you will be tied up, and you may be carried and thrown. Freakling Brothers actually run 3 haunted houses every year. Castle Vampire.
I mean, if you're aware of what you're jumping into, then hey, I'm not mad at the location because it does not sound like they're hiding anything at neither one of these. It's like, yo, you know what's about to go down, but if you still want to do it, then hey, it's on you. So you can't be mad at the locations. Hey,
you are a victim. You will experience pain and you will be drowning as they're submerged underwater for extended periods of time. As the title of the attraction suggests, once you enter, you are a victim. You will experience pain and you will be tied up, and you may be carried and thrown. Freakling Brothers actually run 3 haunted houses every year: Castle Vampire, Circus of Horrors, and Gates of Hell. The Gates of Hell became one of the first haunted houses in the country to be R-rated due to graphic content and their requirement of patrons to be over 18 and sign a waiver. The Victim Experience takes place in the Gates of...
By signing this document, the ticket holder assumes all risk and dangers or personal injury and all other hazards arising from and or related in any way to the Gates of Hell's haunted attraction, whether occurring before, during, or after the event. This is an extremely high intensity experience. Persons with heart conditions, pacemakers, pregnancies, epilepsy, claustrophobia, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and asthma should not enter, nor should those with serious knee or spinal injuries, meaning you about to have to run for your life. What the fuck? Oh, okay, that's enough. This shit is long and it's small. It's kind of hard to read anyway. It's not straining my eyes.
Country to be R-rated due to graphic content and their requirement of patrons to be over 18 and sign a waiver. The Victim Experience takes place in the Gates of Hell attraction, and it simulates what it would be believed to be like to die and actually go to hell. Without giving too much away, victims are put in several scenes where they're touched, forced to get down on their knees, and subjected to things that anyone would find uncomfortable.
What? I wish you would pull your dick off while I'm down here. Oh, this is scary, but what the fuck? Boy, I did not see this in the disclaimer. Stop playing with me. What is this anyway? This ad is long as shit. I'll be back.
The requirement of patrons to be over 18 and sign a waiver. The Victim Experience takes place in the Gates of Hell attraction, and it simulates what it would be believed to be like to die and actually go to hell. Without giving too much away, victims are put in several scenes where they're touched, forced to get down on their knees, and subjected to things that anyone would find uncomfortable. The Raven's Nest was one of the lesser-known extreme haunted houses, and it's been closed since 2009. It had been closed after it was deemed as too extreme by the town. Raven's Nest featured actors who were paid to induce pain on the patrons, as well as other humiliating methods of torture. The owner, Mike McNair, would hire mostly larger and more intimidating actors who would be capable of easily picking up, tying, or shoving patrons. Visitors would also be kicked to the floor and forced to do things like lick the ground, eat disgusting foods and liquids off the floor, and even have actors try to induce vomiting in the patrons. The attraction also played with claustrophobia, having patrons crawl through air vents filled with real cockroaches and spiders, as well as constant tight and cramped rooms and pathways. There was no safe word, which may have been a small factor in the eventual closing of the Raven's Nest.
Right?
Many of you definitely have heard of this last one, McCamey Manor. This San Diego attraction, if it could even be called that, shouldn't even be in the same category as regular haunted house attractions.
One of those snakes?
This place tops the list because it tends to use extreme scare tactics that are off limits to professional attractions. It also can't be said that what goes on in this place is safe. Participants are covered in blood, forced to eat disgusting things, threatened with power tools, stuffed in a clothes dryer, submerged in water for extended periods, physically assaulted, and even given an unwanted haircut. Participants often leave covered in blood.
But no, for real though, what I'm thinking at this point, I don't know what it's called. People, maybe some people who love to take on pain. I don't know. I'm guessing it's for those type of people. And they're aware of this shit. Like, yo, I want to experience this shit. That's the only thing I can think of, dog. I don't know shit. Cause ain't no way I read just like, oh, look at this haunted house, mama. Y'all want to go here today? But hey, if it's how you get your kick, go ahead and enjoy it.
Clothes dryer, submerged in water for extended periods, physically assaulted, and even given an unwanted haircut.
Like hurting yourself.
Participants often leave covered in blood, commonly their own, and so far nobody has made it through to the end. There used to be no safe word, and they would only pull the plug when medically necessary. This place plays with people's fears of claustrophobia with tight spaces and corridors. People's fears of spiders, with restrained victims having up to or even more than 4 tarantulas crawling over their faces. People's fears of clowns and just about anything else you could think of.
Fuck the clowns.
Perhaps one of the more shocking parts is that the experience can go on for up to 10 hours. Obviously a big contributor to why nobody's made it through to the end yet.
Did they burn his face, or is that a face
About
mask?
anything else you could think of.
Or did he come like that?
Perhaps one of the more shocking parts is that the experience can go on for up to 10 hours. Obviously a big contributor to why nobody's made it through to the end
10 hours,
yet.
boy, what the
For a
fuck,
long time the place
didn't. Boy, it's an 8-hour shift. Wish you could take a lunch break. Fuck a lunch break, huh?
Obviously a big contributor to why nobody's made it through to the end yet. For a long time the place didn't have a safe word, and Russ, the owner, only added one after he was told he legally needed to. But even with this safe word, apparently the torture can go on for many people who repeatedly use the safe word, rendering it basically useless. McCamey Manor also garnered a lot of criticism regarding the $20,000 cash prize that they promised to anyone who can make it through to the end, with a lot of people believing they simply wouldn't allow anyone to win, because oftentimes the workers will decide for the patrons that they're done, even if the patron wants to keep going. McCamey Manor is self-described as a place for extreme horror lovers only, who wish to experience what true terror and gross-out torture feels like. But apparently there are a lot of people who wish to experience it, as there's a waiting list of more than 20,000 people. There's currently a Change.org petition to close down McCamey Manor for good, with over 180,000 signatures. Thousands of people shun this place for claiming to be a haunted house attraction, when they believe it's simply a torture chamber under disguise.
Yo, like I said, because I ain't gonna lie, people who are aware of this, like, yeah, I want to endure this pain. All right, fuck it, if that's what you want to do, whatever. But the fact when you have one like this where it's like, all right, even when we say the secret word or the code word where we should freaking end it, it still goes on. Like, yeah, at that point, nah, this is something much more deeper at that point.
There's currently a Change.org petition to close down McCamey Manor for good, with over 180,000 signatures. Thousands of people shun this place for claiming to be a haunted house attraction, when they believe it's simply a torture chamber under disguise. Russ's 40-page waiver is also very questionable, and he apparently misspells the word liable multiple times to attempt to make certain points of the waiver void. Whatever your thoughts on this place are, anyone would admit it's the definition of a horror attraction that takes it way too far.
Damn, nigga! I ain't say nigga first that time, though. Yeah, I'm about to go ahead and get up out here and chill, enjoy my night, though. I ain't got much to talk about in this outro. I thought we was gonna get like a haunted house, you know, horror stories going on, but turns out it was an actual killer blending in with the audience or something like that, or it was actually a dead body in one of them or something like that. Like, yo, this went south. First story, because the first story I ain't gonna lie, I was like, okay, that was a little extreme, but let's see what the next one about. And then pattern was kind of continuing. I was like, oh, okay, I think we need a new title here. I'm like, boy, y'all forgot to hire zombies. Like, we got to get some zombies in here. You know, some ghosts. You know, little spirits and boo. Nigga cranked me in my face. She was like,